Welcome to Walvis on Wire. Today we're talking about Anwar's immediate commitment to Sabah's 40% tax revenue return.
Okay, so let's just jump right in because this is massive. If you followed East Malaysian politics for, even a little while, you know the 40% tax return is everything.
It's the central issue for decades.
For decades. It's been promised, it's been debated, mostly just ignored, but now you have the Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, saying not just that they'll honor it, but that it's going to be implemented immediately.
And that word immediately is what changes the entire conversation.
Right. Not in 5 years, not after some new committee is formed. Now, this feels less like a promise and more like a directive.
Well, you have to look at who is saying it. It's significant coming from the Prime Minister, of course, but you have to remember he's also the Finance Minister.
Okay. So this isn't just policy talk. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the guy who holds the nation's purse strings, giving a direct financial order. It moves it from, political rhetoric, which we've heard before, into actual concrete financial policy. The person in charge of the Treasury is saying the money will move.
Let's get into the details of that because the wording is so specific. It's the 40% net tax revenue return. That word net has been the sticking point for years, hasn't it?
It's been the whole problem, the entire loophole, if you want to call it that.
So what does it actually mean? What is the government returning?
In principle, it's straightforward. Sabah is constitutionally entitled to 40% of the revenue the federal government collects from within the state. So, things like income tax, corporate tax, various duties.
Okay.
But net means after the federal government deducts its own expenses.
And that's where the wiggle room is?
That's what the argument has been for 50 years. The federal government could always claim, well, our costs for collecting that revenue and running federal services in Sabah were so high that the net amount remaining is tiny, or maybe even zero.
It was the perfect bureaucratic shield.
Precisely. So when Anwar commits to this now, it implies he's forcing a decision on how net is calculated immediately. He's saying the debate is over, it's time to pay.
And where he said this is also important, he was in Tuaran, Sabah.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Yes, not in a press conference in Putrajaya. He's there in the state that's directly affected, making this declaration. And he made a point to say, that he's been pushing this in the cabinet and in parliament already.
So he's framing it as consistent policy, not just a one-off announcement.
Right, and he even said it's not a political slogan. It's a very deliberate choice of words.
What's the signal there?
He's trying to draw a line in the sand. He's separating his administration's action from all the past promises made by others. By calling this the first actual move towards implementation, he's basically saying, this time is different.
Let's talk about the legal foundation. Because this isn't just a political favor, is it? This is a constitutional right.
It is absolutely a constitutional right. This goes back to the formation of Malaysia in 1963. It's embedded in the federal constitution, specifically under Article 112D.
So it's not discretionary?
Not at all. It's a fundamental term of the agreement under which Sabah joined the federation. To not pay it is, to fail to uphold the Constitution.
Which brings us to a really crucial, very recent development. The courts just weighed in on this.
Yes, and that gives the Prime Minister's commitment a huge amount of legal force.
What did the court say?
Just last month, the Kota Kinabalu High Court affirmed Sabah's constitutional entitlement to that 40% share. That ruling is a game changer.
How so?
Before that ruling, the federal government could, drag its feet, argue over the definition of net forever. But now there's a judicial mandate. The court has spoken. So Anwar's commitment to immediate action isn't just good politics. It's also about complying with a court-affirmed constitutional duty.
Okay, but I have to be a bit skeptical here about the word immediate. We're talking about government bureaucracy. It's stalled this for decades. Is immediate actually feasible?
That is the right question. Realistically, immediate doesn't mean the money appears in Sabah's bank account tomorrow morning.
Right.
What it likely means is that the directive to start the process is immediate. It forces the Finance Ministry, the Attorney General's chambers, all the relevant bodies to make this their #1 priority. They have to figure out the formula and the transfer mechanism now.
So it's an immediate shift in priority and intent.
Exactly. It stops the endless cycle of delegating it to another committee that will study it for 2 more years. The Prime Minister is basically saying the debate on whether we should do this is over. The only discussion now is how to do it, and fast. That's the political pressure that's been missing.
Let's try and grasp the scale of this. We're talking about a lot of money. Do we have any idea what 40% of net federal revenue from Sabah actually looks like in ringgit?
The official figures are hard to pin down, But based on analyst estimates of federal tax collection in the state, we're almost certainly talking about multiple billions of ringgit annually.
Billions with a B.
Yes. That kind of money flowing directly into the state budget fundamentally changes everything for Sabah.
How so?
Well, think about it. Right now, Sabah depends heavily on federal allocations for major development projects. Those funds are often tied to specific federal priorities.
And they're often not enough. You just have to look at the state of some of the roads and the water infrastructure issues.
Exactly. But if Sabah suddenly has several billion ringgit of its own autonomous revenue, it gains massive fiscal independence. The state government can set its own priorities. They can decide to tackle those water issues or rural poverty directly without needing to ask Putrajaya for permission or funding.
So it puts the power and the accountability back in the hands of the state government.
Completely.
Mm.
It's a huge step toward decentralization, and it also forces transparency. To do this, the federal treasury has to create a clear, auditable formula for calculating net revenue. That formula itself is a victory for good governance.
I want to go back to the announcement itself in Turan. The Sabah caretaker chief minister, Hajiji, was right there. How important was his presence?
Oh, it was critical. Politically, it's a huge signal.
Of what? A united front?
A united front, yes, but it's also a way to insulate the process. When you have the state leadership standing right next to the prime minister, both endorsing this, it makes it very difficult for anyone else, whether it's bureaucrats in Putrajaya or rival politicians, to try and sabotage it later.
It preempts any argument that Sabah isn't ready for this or there's no consensus on the ground.
Precisely. It shows both the federal and state governments are aligned on this one crucial issue. And the language Anwar used, that the federal government must respect this right, that's also very deliberate.
It sounds less like a gift and more like an overdue payment.
It's a shift in mindset. It's moving away from Putrajaya as the patron to Putrajaya, as a partner that is fulfilling its constitutional obligations. For the health of the Federation, that's almost as important as the money itself.
What about the precedent this sets? I mean, Sarawak is watching this very closely, I'd imagine.
With a microscope.
Hmm?
While Sarawak's own financial arrangements are a bit different, especially concerning oil and gas, the principle is the same.
The principle of honoring constitutional agreements.
Exactly. If the federal government can successfully and quickly implement this complex 40% formula for Sabah, it sets a powerful precedent for all future negotiations under the Malaysia Agreement 1963. It shows that there is genuine political will to resolve these long-standing issues.
So this is really a test case for federalism in Malaysia.
It's the ultimate test case. It forces the system to pay a legal debt. And it's not easy. A multi-billion ringgit transfer will require budget reprioritization. But the political cost of failure now, after such a public and firm commitment, would be immense for the current government.
It's a huge political gamble then, but with a massive potential payoff for Sabah.
A massive payoff. It moves the state from being dependent on federal aid to being self-sufficient in funding its own development. That's a profound shift towards stability and long-term planning.
So the immediate work isn't done. The formula still needs to be finalized.
Correct. The negotiations on the exact calculation will be complex. But the Prime Minister has fundamentally changed the goalposts. It's no longer a question of if this will happen, but only how quickly and how much. That in itself is a monumental win.
What's the next thing we should be looking for then, as proof?
The first concrete sign will be the formation of a technical committee to hammer out the numbers. Then the publication of the actual formula they agree on. And finally, of course, the proof is in the pudding, the first actual transfer of funds. That will be the moment this stops being a promise and becomes reality.
So what this all means for you is simple. Anwar's commitment is to the immediate implementation of the constitutionally guaranteed 40% net tax return for Sabah. This action is backed by a recent High Court ruling forcing the federal government to deliver on decades of deferred constitutional rights, promising to redefine financial federalism in the nation. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.